record on this computer. Hey YouTube, it's Dawn, Ivy, and Abby again. We are Writers in Rec, and we are coming to you live this week. This is our 6th episode?
Yes, I believe that it is.
Yeah, we're getting up there in age. Okay, so this is our 6th episode. This time we are going to talk about where we get our ideas from. And this is going to be an interesting conversation. So I'm not the one that thought of this. I didn't want to open this. My name is not Pandora. This is not my unboxing video. So we're going to get this started with the one who thought of this idea. Ivy, where did you get your ideas from?
Sorry. First of all, I will make this disclaimer for anybody who happens to listen and hear dogs barking. My dogs are annoying. So occasionally I haven't been able to corral them as much today, but disclaimer over. So, with my ideas, it takes a range of things. I think they're twofold. One of the sort of the way I make decisions or thoughts come up in my brain. So one of them I think comes from having been in fandom a long time, and it's this has something going for it, but structurally it's a hot mess, and I could make it better if you did X, Y, and Z. Sort of like a fix-it-fic mentality. And I mean, I'll do that by watching a movie or a TV show or reading a book and going, oh, this was a good idea, but they didn't execute it right. But if I put my own spin on it, then this would be really a lot more interesting. I'm trying to think of an example of that and stuff I've written, but it's actually original fiction. But so yeah, I think sometimes I get an idea that's a kernel of an idea from oh, this was done X way, but it was done really boringly or really in sort of a hack way, or they had all this potential they left on the table. And then going from that, I will admit that it's not unobvious. The story I'm still working on because grad school sucks, but The Chameleon, which is sort of like a male superhero romance, is very much Superman inspired. It's not that hard since the main anti-hero is sort of a Lex Luthor type character. So it's taking that idea and playing around with it.
Wait, so question. I'm sorry. I don't mean to derail you. Tell me that Superman is getting it on with Lex.
Yeah, no, it's an MM story. So that's the point. But it's also a mix of other ideas because my brain will do things where, oh, I saw this is done somewhere else and I can do it better if I tweak it.
Yeah.
And then make it my own and go, oh, that's a really cool idea. I wish I could have done more with it. And I'll give you an example of that actually that I've never actually gotten to do anything with. And this is spoilers, but I kind of wish I could if I found a way to make it work for me. Is have you ever, you're going to think this is random, and I don't think you watch horror, Dawn, so
no.
Probably just me talking to me. But there's a terrible Wes Craven produced movie from 20 years ago called Dracula 2000. It has, of all people, Gerard Butler's in it.
Saw that one!
Yeah.
That's probably the only one.
Yeah, it's terrible, right? But I think the idea they have, I've never seen before or since, and I think it's really cool, is the idea that Dracula is actually Judas Iscariot, and the things that bug him, religious symbols that are Christian specific, or silver because of the 30 pieces of silver, are because he's Judas Iscariot and can't die. And I'm that's a really cool idea. This is a really shitty movie. So it's a very cool mythology that I'd love to play with, even though it's not mine someday and it'll piss a lot of people off. But because I think that the reasoning behind it really puts an interesting spin on the Dracula legend. But also that leads me to the other thing of if there's either fix-it-fic mentality, if that's a cool idea, but I could do it better and let me try spinning it, versus, oh, Melly, you'll never shut up, will you? Versus the what if, where you're this is a really interesting idea that just came to me out of the blue because I've been reading something random. So going back to The Chameleon, where the setup and sort of the character dynamics is very much Superman and Lex. One of them is an evil, or at least morally gray billionaire, and the other one with some powers, and one of them is a superhero flies. It's not that subtle, but some of the world building dynamics I think are interesting because I listen to a lot of mystery podcasts and things on YouTube videos this is unexplained. So the Philadelphia experiments always interested me. The sort of the rumored teleportation experiments the government did but didn't quite succeed at theoretically during World War II. So some of the world building for the chameleon, the reason that the people who have powers is because of government experiments that didn't go well, of trying to open rifts and dimensions and teleportation and stuff that basically unleashed energy waves that mutated people. But it goes back to going, the Philadelphia experiment, even if it's completely false, and it is a really interesting idea. Like, what happens if the government had screwed around with teleportation and had like open doors to places they just weren't supposed to? So I guess my brain comes from either fix it and I can do better if I get my own shot, or it's a really weird idea because I read or watch too much random crap. So what about you, Abby?
I would say that the fix it fic thing is probably part of like my process too. They call it a process, like it's a process. No, but I would say, yeah, a lot of it comes from consuming something and thinking, oh God, I would have done this, you know. But a lot of times it's like it's like when I was doing fan fiction, it was basically mostly fix it fic. I think I wrote a couple crack fics and everything, and those were a lot of fun. but yeah, I basically would be like, what if this had happened instead? And that would be more interesting. And obviously, I'm writing for, let's say, a non-canon ship, right? But also, a lot of the times nowadays, because I'm trying to do original romance, obviously, I kind of look at certain dynamics of character dynamics, and I think to myself, like, what is it about this that I like in the show, right? And then I sort of take that back to the tropes and just sort of deconstruct it to the point where, like, let's say the reason, I don't know, I had a basic enemies to lovers kind of ship on this one show where it was also non-canon, but I also always thought about like all the sort of head canons I had about that ship. Where was that coming from? Blah blah blah. Like if it's enemies to lovers, I like them to be evenly matched. You know what I mean? I don't want, like, even if he's in a position of power over her, I want her to be fighting, that kind of thing. So yeah, it basically all just it all really starts with tropes for me, and and with consuming other media and thinking, well, that was great, but wouldn't it have been much more fun to do it this way? And yeah, like my most recent book on Wattpad, I mean, my most recent completed book, the entire thing is just the entire idea just started with the girl chases boy dynamic. You don't see it a lot. It's always the other way around in romance. The fact that, my hero is such a beta, and and everything like that. Like I was basically looking for something I wasn't seeing, and then it grew from there. But I would say that I think I come up with characters before I come up with plot, for sure. All right. So,
Okay. So
Yeah, tell us. Let us know now, Dawn.
Okay, so now it's my turn to open up this bag of worms. I get inspiration from everything. I could find something in and I also have a squirrel mentality. So I will find little tidbits here and here and here and here and here and here and all try and then just try to weave them together with the wonderful words, what if? Because, okay, Ivy is already red tempered. That entire series came up from two things. One, a picture of Angela Bassett and Henry Cavill standing next to each other. She was in this like bomb ass pink dress, and it was at the Mission Impossible Fallout premiere. And everyone in Romancelandia on Twitter lost their minds. They were like, these two look so good together, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there looking and I'm like, that looks really good. Then I'm thinking, I need to write a story with these two. What if she's a vampire? Ooh. Now, that's one. So we're going to put a pin in that, right? Then two, I'm scrolling through Facebook. Jordan Peele wants to do a live action Gargoyles remake. Wait, what? What? Gargoyles? Okay, I have to have a book with gargoyles. But I want Henry and Angela to get together. Like gargoyles. And I want Henry and wait a minute. Put a pin in that one. Okay? Okay. Because we have to figure out a way to get gargoyles and vampires into the same story and make it make sense. So, put those together. Then I was sitting there going to sleep. I have to have background noise on. Lindsay Ellis's, and again, she
always shows up.
Episode 6, mentioned at least once an episode. I was watching her apology to Stephenie Meyer. Wait a minute.
Love that video.
The vampires in Twilight, they could not go out into the daylight because they're stone and they sparkle. But what if my vampires could not go out in the day because they turned into stone? So then they would be gargoyles, and then I could have them all together, and then so. But the world's not ready to have badass Angela Bassett as a vampire just yet. So I'm going to make her one of the enforcers. So I have to work with the other enforcers first. Then I was watching the originals. I have a thing for Elijah. I love Klaus, but I also love Elijah as well. So then I start seeing Elijah. And the idea for Gus's character, she was in the back of my mind for eons. So I'm like, okay, let me do this. And then Gus and Elijah came together, and then that started snowballing. I got the idea about the whole Jack the Ripper thing from an anime, and it just everywhere, like little tidbits. And what if? My mind is like that beam of Charlie Day in front of the whiteboard with the conspiracy ribbons and everything. That is my mind. So it's like,
by the way, I think It's Always Sunny has been running so long that you could probably populate every possible meme from that show. It's almost like a Simpsons level kind of thing.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon level almost.
Yeah. I was just thinking about It's Always Sunny the other day, and the reason why everyone's always like, oh, you can't do edgy comedy nowadays because everyone's so sensitive. I'm like, explain It's Always Sunny.
Yeah.
You know, somehow
I think people
when
they say everybody's sensitive, they're like, they won't let me punch down, and I'm like, that's not the same thing.
But yeah, I get my ideas from everywhere. I pull from TV, movies, manga, soap operas. I'm the book that I'm working on right now. I have the heroine. She's going to end up engaged to the hero's brother, and the woman that was engaged to the brother now has to marry the hero. And yeah, it's gonna be like telenovela level of things. So I'm having fun with that. But again, it's just pulling inspiration from everywhere, and the words "what if," because you have to make whatever you're doing make sense.
Yeah, it's true.
I used to pull a lot from anime because when I was doing fan fiction years ago, it was a thing of, okay, well, I'm going to put Sesshomaru with Rin, and this is going to be characters from Inuyasha. This is going to be how it falls out. Or I want to have this fic with Roy and Ed from Full Metal Alchemist, and this is how I want this to play out. So yeah, it gets, sometimes you could take the type of person that your characters were in the anime or in the I mainly did AUs. The only time
AUs for the people who follow
an alternative universe.
Mm-hmm.
The only time I did a fix-it fic was when I was in high school. the movie Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, came out, and I totally hated the ending of it because the ending had Ryu walking down the highway and then Bison coming up on him in a 12 wheeler, an 18 wheeler. And so I'm like, okay, I gotta fix this. And so I wrote like three subject notebook, and this is like 90s quality 3 subject notebooks, so they're like 200 to 300 pages a piece, not like the 180 you get now. Yeah, I keep count a page count.
She does. She's got a little journaling going on. Schedulers.
Yeah, so it's like really, so that was like the only time. Otherwise I'll do things in alternate universes where I'll pull the characters and put them in some other world or some other circumstance that and then I get to make them dance as my little puppets. But that's a whole other talk show.
It's true. We'll have to do one that's really based around if not fiction, but the idea of like what is an alternate universe, because I mean there's genre shows and stories and books that are like alternate universe or alternate histories. I mean, the one that comes to mind fastest is Amazon series The Man in the High Castle, but I mean there's a lot of things to play with alternate things.
Yeah.
The Man in the High Castle on the premise that we lost World War II and then Japan and Germany split up the United States in territories. Another one that I think of is The Watchmen, which really takes place in an alternate universe where Richard Nixon was president for like 4 terms or something.
Yeah, the Umbrella Academy is also an alternate universe.
Love Umbrella Academy. Love it. Love it.
When is it coming back? Like it went and got a second season and it was in February, and I just don't know why it didn't come back yet, because it could have been on time to come back before we even had pandemic stuff, right? Like the special effects should have been done in a year.
By the way, you guys know who wrote the Umbrella Academy, right? The comic.
Yeah, the guy from My Chemical Romance.
I was just like he's got a lot of hats. Good for him.
I like it. I really.
I think they got back together. They got back together for a hot minute.
Yeah.
So that could be what the holdup is with the Umbrella Academy.
Yeah.
But because I know he was involved with the show as well.
Yeah, he was like not just it's based on my stuff, but he's like a producer for it, like really hands on for it.
Yeah.
Third way, maybe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There you
go. Yeah, but everything's kind of on hold right now, though.
Yeah, I know, totally.
Stuff that's filmed is not like, I'm still dying about Bridgerton. Oh God, it's like I don't know when it's going to come out now.
Yeah.
Bridgerton, by the way, is a Netflix series based on Julia Quinn's Regency romance series, which was you guys write like all the paranormal romance and everything, but a lot of historical romance. They do that sort of pattern where everything can stand alone, but everything can kind of stand alone, but you get more out of it if you read it in order.
Yeah.
If you like read a later book, you're going to get spoiled on this couple or that couple or whatever. And they try not to do that, but still it's like a standalone and serialized. And I'm very, very interested in how they're going to be making a Netflix series out of, like, they say they're just using the first book, but they're also using elements from other books. It's almost like you have to take the entire series and change the timeline, right? So that everybody's introduced. But I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. And so it's something that's really interesting, because it's really rare that romance novels get adapted into TV series. I mean, okay, no, we got Outlander, obviously. But
and Netflix, I think, started by having not huge success, but they have started adapting a couple of things. Like they did, I don't know who the author is, forgive me, something called Virgin River, which is like a contemporary small town kind of romancy thing. It did well enough to get a second season, so that's hard enough to do at Netflix. Yeah. So someone watched it. But yeah, I think the Bridgertons is their really first high profile romance based series.
Yeah. Well, this is like the kind of thing. Historical romances don't get made into movies that much ever. Like, yeah, like you've got your contemporary Nora Roberts has had a bunch of books made into Lifetime movies or limited miniseries and things like that, but this just doesn't happen very much. Because
some snarky part of me is
love Jane Austen.
Have the budget for like Regency.
Mm-hmm.
Lifetime doesn't have the budget to get some Regency costumes so they can adapt when a woman struggle against a dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's as much as I love Elizabeth Gaskell and Jane Austen, I would love to see more more stuff out there. And I'm sorry, I've taken us way off topic because I was just thinking about that series coming out and everything being on hold. And there's not even a trailer. They're being so secretive. Like you can only see, like even when they show like someone like taking a picture of their gloves in a dressing room, you know, they have like half the frame blacked out or something. They're being so under wraps about this whole thing, and it's so frustrating. But yeah, I can't wait though. I really can't. I hope it's amazing because I want more Regency era adaptations. Like Georgette Heyer has a bunch of awesome books. And yes, in her lifetime, they made one bad movie and she said, no one's adapting my work ever again. And everything. But yeah, maybe this will open the door to more stories. Because hey, I need more inspiration to write my Regency romances.
And as long as they do the adaptation right, you know,
please.
yeah, because that can go very wrong very quickly. That might be another topic for us.
Yes. I have so much I would love to say, even though it's been a long time since I've seen or read the book in the movie, The Order of the Phoenix, and how mad I was at how butchered the adaptation is. I'm still bitter.
Oh God, yes.
Super bitter. Like this was a book that should not have been one movie. I'm just saying. But Camping the book got to be 2 movies, so I feels. Anyway, so with giving ideas for what we actually write, I see that there's a camp of what if, there's the camp of I could fix this and do it better if I took my spin. There's the I have ideas coming because I'm always sort of dipping into different types of media and my combination of media inspires me. And then I think Abby pointed out, I know because just knowing you so well, that with your works, like stuff like Girl Chases Boy and Beta Male, it's because it's stuff that you weren't seeing. So there's definitely that maxim of people sometimes start as writers because they weren't seeing what they wanted in storylines or in books out there. So how true is that for you guys?
Good.
I will say that I have not gotten one of these emails. A lot of times I write whatever comes to mind. Recently I have started writing more interracial stuff because there is a market for it. I think one of the problems that I may have with like the Murder of Crows series is that, and this is something that it's not a problem with me, it's a problem with the market. And I refuse to say it's a problem with the readers, but again, it's the problem with the market. People that read interracial romance want to read interracial romances. People that want to read white cishet romances, they want to read white cishet romances. They don't want to deal with one or the other. Now, Murder of Crows, One for Sorrow is a white cishet couple. Two for Joy is an interracial couple. Three for a Girl is an interracial couple. And it goes on where it's a mix of, they could be interracial. And when I say interracial, it could be anything. It's not always the same. You have Damaris and Grayson in Two for Joy, who Damaris is a Black woman, Grayson is a white male. The next book is an Asian woman and a white male. The next book is a white woman and a male of color. So it interweaves, but people don't want to see that. So I don't know how to market it. Again, it's not a thing of bad readers, but it is what it is. So I've been writing a lot of interracial stuff. Gus and Elijah are a Latin female and a white male. The book that I'm working on now, A Tale of Northern Lights, that one is an Asian male and a Black female. which is surprisingly a huge demographic of interracial couples, but hardly anybody's writing about them. So then you have Black female, white male. So I try not to, I am writing to a market now, more by, it's still my choice, but it's one of those, I'm going in with an informed decision. I'm not sitting here being like, well, I'm just going to write whatever it is I want to write, whether it be sold or not. I'm making an informed decision of, this is the way the world is working. I have to play this game. I do know a friend of mine, she writes a book, she writes mostly contemporaries, and her heroine was a Dominican American woman. She got an email that almost brought her to tears because a woman had emailed her saying that, she got that book as a suggestion, and on a whim she went and read it, and she was so happy because there were like almost no Dominican heroine novels out there. And she finally got a chance to see herself in a book as a heroine, not as the maid, not as someone less than, not as the crazy Latina that's just gonna go after your ex-boyfriend because he did something to hurt you, So it's like one of those, yeah, but no, I keep an eye on the trends. I don't try to write to the trends. So that's basically where I'm at.
I was gonna say it's a little funny, and it's different because it's not in our mutual friends. Like, she's a contemporary, but the heroine, one of the heroines in Frozen Ashes and Smoldering Shards, I always like allude that wrong, and then things get weird. But which is my co-writer, Midnights, are a dragon shifter and a human thief. It's not quite slash yet. I mean, it's sort of building up into urban fantasy that eventually there'll be a couple, but they're not a couple in the first book. Anyway, she's Dominicana, and I actually had it on my mind because I had been reading a lot of things like in the Time of the Butterflies, and a lot of stuff that was like historical from there, and going like, oh, it's really cool about the Mirabella sisters, and it was on Mirabella sisters was on my mind. So even named like the heroine Minerva, and I was just like, okay. But I was like, oh yeah. But no, I can see, and I'm glad that when you said she got an email that made her cry, I was like, oh God, please be a good email, and not like,
no, it was a good email.
How dare you? Yeah, I was like, that's good.
I know. At first, I was gonna be like, what did some mean person say to her?
No, it was a good one. Otherwise, I wouldn't have shared the story if it was a mean one.
I think I can understand that too, because there is that element of, especially when you first start out, if you're indie, that you're like, I'll do whatever I want because I don't need rules. And then you're like, oh, they have some for a reason. You got to pick and choose which ones you're going to play with or which ones you're going to concede on enough to try and get in front of eyeballs. So like, and I notice this in series too, like even if you go to, I mean, this is slightly different, but like, not an indie, but J.R. Ward and the, the name of all these things, Black Dagger Brotherhood.
The Black Dagger Brotherhood. As soon as you said J.R. Ward, I knew.
Yeah, it's like almost all of the stories except one are het. And I guess because she had some male side characters she wanted to pair off. Okay. She did like a side book or like one of the in-between books, or I don't know. I just have heard of this book and I've read skimming parts and I was like, oh honey, no. But where it was male, which is fine. But obviously some of her audience who's going to be there reading the male female is not going to be reading that book. It's not going to translate over. And I have a friend who's done a motorcycle romance series where like one of the books out of like 6 was male because of side characters, and that one didn't get as much reading as some of the others because most of the audience for that group was male female, and that was what they're going into the series expecting. That was just also with J.R. Ward. The side note is she like, I don't know if she didn't get a sensitivity reader or she just didn't ask around or she didn't figure out how it works, and I was just like, oh no, that's like fanfic 101 levels of I'm 13 and I figure out how to write my slash fic. Like, no. I was like, I hope these vampires have like, I don't know, just no. I'm like, I can't. But yeah, and then I've noticed that happening. People who are pointing out that they'll write in LGBTQ fiction, they'll write like sometimes poly arrangements where it's like they don't get complaints if it's like male, female for like a menage setup or a menage story, but like they feel like sometimes people will be like, you didn't warn me it was actually a female, male menage story. And you're like, well, you say you usually like to read LGBT fiction, so like Q plus fiction, but all of a sudden because it's two women, and you're just like, well, okay, that's whatever. But it's something I saw on Twitter the other day, being like, there's like expectations people have going into series that like sometimes what the races of the couples will be, what if they'll be cishet all the time, that kind of stuff will be, and that's sometimes things that will drive like your writing decisions of, okay, maybe this series is going to have X and Y parameters, and the next down the line or next standalone will have Y and D parameters, so that way people don't get surprised or like fall off in the middle of a series or something, because people are sometimes picky like that, and you gotta have to be aware of like, maybe you can market it as one thing here and take a kernel of an idea or kernel of a type of relationship, but move it over here so that people understand and expect it more readily. People get really upset if they get surprised somehow, which
people turn into assholes when they get surprised.
You're nicer about it. I mean, you're more direct about it than I am, but I was like, yeah. And for me, it's just like I read all types of ships because I just read across the spectrum because I'm also across the spectrum. But I read across like different like races and religious backgrounds, but I know some people are like very much, I must only read like this one type of thing. So if they aren't warned ahead, they really do become assholes about it. So you're like, I guess something to bear in mind, sometimes when making creative decisions, you might have the initial kernel of an idea, but then you got to figure out if it's going to fit into this particular series you're working on, or if it's something to save down the line for slightly different marketing and a slightly different slant on the series. So,
yeah. One thing I've noticed on Wattpad is because I can look at my demographics by country, so and by sex, but like most people say, like don't say, like on sex and age, right? And everything. But I know like it's mostly women, obviously. Very little, quite a couple men, and reading it. I honestly wish more men would read romance. I think it would do them very good. But what's it called? But yeah, I was looking at the makeup of everybody I have. I would say that I have more readers in Nigeria and India than I do in the U.S. Which is funny because like it's 20. Seriously, I'd say about 25% of my readers are in the U.S. And then yeah, like I'm sorry, it was something like 14% Nigeria, 12% India. But it
doesn't
fluctuates.
surprise me as much as you might think, because there are areas where like there's a lot of mobile technology that's been emerging, which is what Wattpad runs on, but it's also a free platform, so it's easier to like read the fiction where you've got the technology and it's free, and in your case it's amazing quality. But also those are two areas that have a lot of like very well educated, and like English is like a language that's been there because of colonialism and other things, but it's been
Nigeria speaks English in the majority, I would say.
Yeah, our friend Baby D, her family is originally from Nigeria, and like, I just like, I love her accent because she lives in London now, and like her accent's amazing because London accents are so pretty. But you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, it makes me think of Baby D. But yeah, so like, it wouldn't surprise me that you are popular in places that are like not necessarily the United States or Canada because of like a huge English reading base that wants to read mobile free fic. That's actually really good.
I mean, like, yeah, but before that, I feel like a lot of people have this assumption. I was, this is on Twitter back a while ago. I think there was like a brouhaha in Romancelandia. When isn't there?
I was about to say the exact same thing. I was like, it is the most contentious freaking fandom I've ever been in, and it's not technically a fandom. It's supposed to be quote a business.
Yeah, and as much as like I love when people are really, as much as I love when people are passionate about fighting injustice, I just can't stand how quickly they eat their own.
There is a difference between like legit grievances and like such an upset cancel culture that you're like nervous to say things, and I think sometimes Romancelandia gets onto even for me the corner of like, oh, I don't want to get backlashed.
There's a lot of gatekeepers, but what was I saying? I'm sorry. So yeah, there was a whole brouhaha in Romancelandia about well, the assumption that there's not a market for diverse characters and everything because or that authors of color need to be writing for a white audience. I'm like, that's just not true. That's not the majority of your audience. You have no way. The assumption that everybody's going to be white and they want to just see that is so wrong. Like, and it's completely short-sighted. You're not really taking into account the world we live in, the world that actually exists outside whatever bubble, which I always assume whoever says that, oh, right for that audience because they're the majority, is probably white. They're not the majority anymore, you know, and and I honestly don't know if they were the majority before. The only reason we have these demos and things now is because of technology,
I
right?
think it also comes from originally, says a white woman, but the publishing industry being an industry that's based on consumers in the same way that the television industry is. And there's always that old maxim of like, well, yeah, but how does this, you know, what are the Nielsen ratings in the Midwest? And like the default assumption that it has to play to an audience of this het, white, usually waspy, Protestant Midwestern women. And that's kind of going to be your audience. But you're totally right, in an age where you have increasingly more, and we'll see how this plays out post Captain Trips and us all being at home and things being more and more digital. When you have a world where the books can be accessed depending on financial constraints and if you can afford to be in a rental program, et cetera, from online vendors from any place in the world, as long as you've got an net connection, the fees and the ability to read the language, that really does change. And you are right. You don't know who's, you know, reading you a lot in India or in different countries in Africa, or who's found that and is like, I really love this, and I'm, you know, from Brazil or whatever. And so it really does change some of
the Bridgerton series, as I mentioned, the Julia Quinn one that's getting adapted, you basically have to translate most of the tweets because her fan base in Brazil is huge. I think she's probably a household name in Brazil. She's the Stephen King of Brazil. I don't know. Yeah, so like every time I'm on Instagram or Twitter, like I have to like translate everything just to be part of the conversation around the hype around this series.
You should ask me. I read Portuguese. Anyway, the point is, yeah, but it's just like you don't think about how that's true facts, but you don't think about how international an audience is. You're just like, I think people think about it as, well, you used to have to go to like what was at the bookstore when we used to have them, and like, can they get to it from their local mall in Annapolis or whatever? And it's not that same way, but people still think that way, which is really frustrating. And also, let's be real, as Don likes to say, some people are just assholes, and some people are always going to want that same thing. People apparently think that everybody else wants the same thing.
People want what they want in their own little picture, and they want it exactly that way. Because going back to what Ivy was talking about earlier, the entire thing with the Black Dagger Brotherhood, I totally believe that J.R. Ward did not have any sensitivity readers. As someone that reads the series repeatedly, I enjoy it. What can I say?
It's fine.
The Blaylock and Quinn relationship, that was something that she was putting her toe in it. Like she alluded to it in a previous book. She alluded to it. Then it was like, no, this can't happen. Then she puts in a setup that you're like, okay, this is not going to happen. Whereas Quinn, one of the male leads, he ends up sleeping with this woman and getting her pregnant because of trauma. So you think, okay, this is not going to happen. Well, she got such a backlash that she went to her publishers and she was like, look, this is a thing. I need to make them a thing. I don't care how you market it. And it was an experiment, but this is a thing that needs to be written. And I think people were starting to, so she did Quinn and Blaze book, which I have autographed. It was my birthday. And so with Quinn and Blaze relationship, that broke up Blay and Saxton, who was another male. So that's why I say there's 1.5. Because Saxton gets his happily ever after with another male that was introduced in one of the side stories. Because she has the Black Dagger Brotherhood and then the Black Dagger Brotherhood Legacy, which they're trying to marry the two, where the characters cross over back and forth, and that's where Saxton's story is. And it's a little like it's still a little like I don't know if you got anybody to sensitivity read this one either. She probably didn't, but again, she's J.R. Ward.
Yeah.
Now
I'm
that
current. Oh, sorry.
that being said, also when it comes to, and forgive me for saying it this way because even in my head it sounds very blasé, but as for the polyamorous and menage thing, I don't know if you've noticed this. Okay, follow me on this one.
Sure. Rabbit hole me.
Porn has always been considered a big no-no. Porn has always been looked at as ladies don't do that. Women that respect themselves don't look at that.
Reread it. No.
I'm getting there. Wait. So when you have this taboo subject of two guys and one girl, then it's hot. It can allude into something where the woman is the focal point. This is all her fantasy. She is the one in power of everything, right? But when you have female and female, the majority of the time when you see that, it's porn. Think about that for a second.
Is it being written by men? Is that why? Or I don't
No.
All right, my mom made a cameo, but she's had to ask me questions. Okay.
I know. But yeah, when you think about that, and it's not even that female relationships are seen. And I'm sorry, it's not even that female relationships are written by men. And it's also a huge thing that I had, a problem that I had with a bunch of friends.
I mean, the perception is porn.
The perception of it, is
I feel
pornographic.
Like
because that association with like
that
stereotypical guy, like that's what he wants to see in like his video, like porn.
I find reverse harem to be the most most porny damn thing there is.
Because but you sit back and you look at it.
Because like gangbang the fic. Sorry, my bias shows through, but I don't like.
It feels like the whole train situation.
I think if they just called polyamorous and they were like polyamorous, I'd get it. But I feel like there's such an, I hate this term, but I actually like once as a ghost had someone tell me that they really like literally verbatim told me this when I was writing for them, like, oh, we need you to write reverse harem, blah blah blah, but no homo. And I'm like, okay. So I'm gonna be over here because that's really awful. But like,
let me just say,
it's really just set up as like a gangbang, and you're like, this is.
I like MMF. MFM is just too much pressure. I just think for the woman, I just think there should be a share and share alike. Plus, I really like when the guys are like, oh no, we're not into each other. We're just into this chick. Oh wait,
there's a realization process.
Yeah,
I love people learn about.
I love the reluctant straighties, you know, in MMF. But I don't read that much of it because I still read mostly like cishet romance. You know, I'm just a cishet girl. But every once in a while, yeah, I'll read
Nobody's
MMF.
Perfect, AP.
Huh?
Said no one's perfect. But no, I think it's interesting. So I guess going back to, even though we started from the idea of where you get your ideas, I think that's something that I guess Abby's learning more, and we've had more experience just getting exposed to, is that yes, at least when you're an indie or on Wattpad or something, you can have any idea you want, but there's still the idea of how do you get that idea, that story into people's hands, and sometimes you still have to play by certain rules, and maybe you pick and choose the ones you listen to, so you don't always write basically a Hallmark book every time.
And also just following through, because I've got lots of story ideas and I could start every single one of them. That's the easy part. The hard part is getting through and finishing. And it took me 2 years to finish this book. And it's not perfect. I know it needs like a crap load of cuts and condensations and rewrites and stuff before I try to submit it to publishers and all, because I just don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to try the indie route with historical. I'm just not sure how many people. I feel like people that read historical mostly read it from Avon and what's the other
Source
one?
Books has some.
Yeah.
Harlequin has historicals under its branch, I guess.
HQN, I think, was their thing.
Yeah.
Or,
I said that with like a lot of confusion in my voice because they've rearranged and cut so many lines even before.
Yeah, who knows what like the publishing
they don't do paranormal anymore, for example, at HQN. So
it looks like now and will look like after this, But I think the one thing I like on Wattpad is that it does give me a lot of freedom to start writing an idea because I've already got readers that are waiting for me to write it. Because the first book I gathered a little fan base, and so with the second book, not everybody's there right now because they want to wait. Some of them want to wait till read it till I've finished it and everything, but some of them like being along for the ride. Some readers like being along for the serialized ride. So and that helps me because to take something from idea to, I'm actually writing this shit.
The reinforcement.
I kind of need reinforcement, and I need someone to be like, hey, this is good. Otherwise, I'm not very good about telling myself that to completion. To completion. That sounds dirty, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when it comes to keeping yourself inspired and keeping yourself going through until you finish the damn book, I am not going to delve into that completion segue because my 12-year-old self cannot handle it. My 12-year-old self has made way too many appearances this week, so yeah. So it was a whole big thing. I was on the phone with my friend and we were talking about the store BJ's, and it was a thing with cashews, and I'm like, no. Yeah.
God, my brain went to the 12-year-old place too. But
See?
It's not just you. But I would say that another thing that as we're talking about it, because Abby brought up the point of like going to completion, but it also, or some ideas never get actually done, or like they kind of are half done, and okay, they never hit their climax. But I was gonna segue this into like, what's your process for like when you get a bunny? I call them plot bunnies, but like when you get a plot bunny, like how do you know when you start writing on it? Like, do you get the bunny, kind of corral him, feed him some carrots, see if he grows, and then like, oh, this idea actually has some legs to it? Do you just start going like, this is the coolest bunny ever, and start writing without a lot of forethought? I'm too much of a planner. I get that, but like sometimes I have an idea that's like, oh, this is interesting. Let me put it on the back burner for a while, take a few notes, and like let it gel or something that's on my actual to-do list gets more attention, and by the time I go back to it, I've got like 8 more ideas that can go into subplots and stuff. So I guess I like to back burner things for a while, let them grow for contention in the next project.
I would say with bunnies, for me, I end up writing on them when they won't go away. Like I had other stuff I wanted to work on, but this idea for this Regency wouldn't go away, and I was really intimidated to start it because you have to do so much research just to make sure you're okay. I have an etymology online shortcut on my phone that I basically abuse all the time and everything, just because it's you would not believe how many words weren't in use until 1900. How many words sound old-fashioned and old-timey. They're pretty new. But what's it called? So, but yeah, I have this thing I call word vomit, where I basically sit down for like 2 hours with like a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, depending on the time of day. If it's morning, obviously the wine, but just kidding. But I get at
this point, it's both Blur's Day all the time and 5 o'clock somewhere, because who even knows what day it is anymore. But like, there's less judging now in the brave new world. You can 1 o'clock all you want.
I'll just take out everything, all the stuff all the ideas in my head. Like, I just basically like, oh, and this should happen. Oh, and this should happen. Oh, and at some point somebody should say this because that'll be cute. Like, I'm going to put this line in because that's sexy, and everything. So I'll just start like excitingly go on. And then sometimes I'll brainstorm with my friend Melissa, because she's really, me and her have a lot of the same sensibilities on the kind of relationships we like to write and read.
Yeah.
And, So I'll brainstorm with her and then copy paste that entire brainstorm into my Scrivener document. Each Scrivener project has different documents for each whatever. And then I take, but yeah, and a lot of the times while I'm writing something else, if I have ideas for Plot Bunny number 2, I'll keep putting it in that little file, like until I have, I don't know, I think I've got 15,000 words worth of just messy notes that need to be organized by what story section it goes into, which I'm still working on. I'm trying to use Romancing the Beat to structure my story more tightly. But yeah, so basically it's word vomit, then organize it, then try to write. that's my idea to actual process.
I think you actually hit on something really interesting when talking about how you corral your bunnies, but not boil your bunnies, because if you get like the back burner / bunny raising mixed up, then you end up with like fail attraction. But the point is that talking to someone else helps me with my bunnies. Especially if I'm in the idea, like I'll talk to you, Dawn, I think, and sometimes I'll talk to April, but like obviously a lot of the time when I'm coming up with an idea or a thought or in a cul-de-sac of I'm not sure where to go with it, I'll talk to Midnight, who's Captain Angel of being my girlfriend and my co-writer, so she knows a lot about how my brain works in all sorts of ways. But like I usually like a sounding board to like throw ideas against. That really helps me. Sometimes like I mean I may have already had ideas or like, oh, this connects with this, but sometimes getting somebody to like explain it to and see them like pick it apart from their perspective or add more to my bunnies helps. So I really do like the sounding board in a development stage, or like a sounding board. Sometimes just having a weird conversation with someone and you're not even thinking about it. And now most of my conversations have chat logs, so Facebook knows a lot about me. But
yeah,
it makes for easy copy pasting into Scrivener, so that's plus, or into Word because I'm that primitive. But like I get a lot out of like sometimes just back and forth and having someone to be sort of the Laurel to my Hardy when I'm thinking of ideas.
I call it a sounding board. I goes to show you that I was raised by Italians more so. I throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks. I'll go and I will pull up my messenger and I will message with Ivy, or I will message with a couple of other friends of mine, and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'll start going on and on and on. Other times if and this has happened, I have there have been sections of One for Sorrow that I've written. There have been sections of Two for Joy that I have written. There have been sections of Temperate that I have written where things just come out of nowhere and I put them in. And then I'm like, I go and I talk to my friends and I'm like, yeah, this happened. This is what happens when you are not around to supervise me for me to throw spaghetti at the wall at you.
You didn't stop me, so it's partially your responsibility /
exactly
you like it.
Exactly. Again, my 12-year-old self, I will blame everybody but myself. I have done that. I have also written until I write myself in a corner. One project, it took me 10,000 words to get into a corner. Another project, it took me 70. That one hurts because there are people coming after me for that one. So that one has to be worked on after I finish. I gotta put that on the schedule. I gotta get that done. I have to make my friends happy because that book, that has been pretty much cooking for almost 2-3 years. And so I went and reread some of it and I'm like, oh, this is good, and I'm reading it and I'm reading it.
Oh shit, I gotta make that work.
And then it's and then it's like, and as I'm reading it, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, I was at like chapter 22, and the heroine's grandmother, they go and they find the heroine's grandmother, and the hero whisks the heroine away and she's all upset with him, and I'm like, And this is the moment when Dawn realized she fucked up.
I have a question in a second. Sorry.
Because it was like I was so invested in it, and then it was like, so I just took these villains and dropped them in here at like 65K.
Oh no, SpaghettiOs.
Exactly.
It's a Twilight problem, like in the first book where all of a sudden they're playing baseball and like vampires show up.
Yeah, but then also, you know how I write. I can't just go back and sprinkle a line here and sprinkle a line there to show these women hanging around.
Yeah. It's hard when you make a plot cul-de-sac is what I call it. I'm such an over planner that doesn't happen to me as much now, but it used to happen a lot. Not a lot, but I mean, it happened in Fanfic where I am more of a pantser, but I have found that working oneself into a plot cul-de-sac can be hard to get oneself back out. I had a question in that I've talked sometimes about prompts because sometimes I've talked about how writing to prompts like dislodges things if I just need a break or a palate cleanser or to feel like I'm not stuck anymore. But like, have you ever like seen a prompt and said like, this is enough to get me started for an idea and a full book comes out of it? Or going off what Abby said where she's talking about tropes, sometimes you'll see calls for agents or publishing houses or submissions for anthologies or something, and it's like, we need like this trope with this trope or this type of subgenre with this type of trope. Like, has that ever also led to book ideas you might not have otherwise had?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that mixing tropes, one time I thought to myself that it'd be a really fun thing. I thought that I would like to vlog my whole writing journey, right? I never ended up doing it because I'm really lazy and I have lots of ideas I don't follow through on. But one idea I had,
but you did have the idea,
is the trope wheel, like a wheel, like a little whiteboard wheel. You write a trope on it, you know, and or you pick it out of the hat or whatever. Where you
Wheel of morality, turn.
Grab a trope, grab a character type, take grab two character types and then grab a trope, and then bam, you have to write this.
Alien invasion, secret baby, ballerina, go and see what happens. Oh fuck. No, just like I was kidding.
Girl, what's the word? Draco in leather pants. What's the other? That's more of a trope of like a bad fic thing, but the whole Draco in leather pants thing.
It's like misery can keep multiplying. I see you there, the Mortal Instruments.
Yeah.
Although I like Shadowhunters as a TV series, which is probably because Cassandra Clare didn't have a lot of creative control over it, which is why she hated it. But I actually thought it turned out fine for what it was.
Yeah.
And her characters were better, like fleshed out there and not nearly as annoying. So it was like nice to see Malik where
it was like
the Alec part wasn't really just like a bitchy, jealous person most of the time.
Much as I'm not a 50 person, I think the movie did so much. Samuel Taylor Johnson didn't. Samuel Taylor. No, I'm sorry.
50 Shades?
What's her name? What's her name? I'm thinking of what?
Dakota Johnson?
Taylor John. What's her name?
Dakota Johnson.
Dakota Johnson.
No. The director of the first movie.
The director? I don't know. Let me IMDb it for you because it's gonna drive you nuts, and I know what you mean.
I get mixed up because I know her and her little husband. I mean, her boy toy husbands,
But you're right. That's why it is confusing because Dakota Johnson's the lead actress, but the actual director's name is Sam Taylor Johnson. She's a woman.
Sam Taylor Johnson.
Their last names are both Johnson. They're just
okay.
Yeah, they hyphenated their name. They're whatever, but yeah. What's it called? I thought that she did a really good job with making 50 Shades so much better, which is weird because by the second movie they were like the author went back to having her husband write the screenplay and got a new
different director
and everything. And I feel like but the first movie did better by that book than it deserved, in my opinion. Like
it's not just funny bad, it's just artistically shot
it
bad.
still wasn't good. It still wasn't good at all. It was
The
still
way it is
different
shot and
itself.
framed is very competent. It's very nice. There's some cool lighting
Yeah,
aesthetics.
but
Like the
and also
director was
just
obviously
adding,
going, "This is a big turd. I'm trying so hard, guys."
but
Yeah.
just adding in
Oh, you
like
did cry.
self-deprecating type little lines from Dakota Johnson and stuff. Like she was definitely an MVP. You know, as far as being able to take the blandest piece of milk toast character that ever existed, you know, and give her just a teensy bit of personality at least, you know, or not even just personality, just having her react to things the way a person would instead of
Like a
a pair of
human.
pants.
But I think that's like yeah, I think that sometimes there can be something said for adaptation where something that's a book that's either okay at best or severely terrible gets an adaptation to film or TV, and the people who are doing that are better writers or more competent craftsmen, and they can at
Yeah.
least elevate it to more watchable or sometimes even good. So that can be an actually kind of amazing thing where, in this case, if you treat something like Shadowhunters, the TV show, or like the film version of 50 Shades,
Yeah.
as a new idea coming from almost fix it of a terrible idea, that can actually be a lot of room for another type of creative to really like bring up what was good and fluff it up better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like sometimes maybe it's also a fandom thing because you used to have like things like, oh, here's a challenge or here's a blah blah for the blah blah blah, and like you'd get like a month to write a story because everyone's like, we'll do them all on this theme, and like I enjoy coming from that perspective. So like I enjoy when people who are publishing houses put out ideas or calls for things, or like I'll just someone on Twitter saying, oh, I haven't seen this trope with this type of character, and even if it doesn't get written, and part of that's because grad school's the worst, so I'm never gonna leave. Well, I am, but it's just taking forever.
Are.
But on the back burner and side ideas or outlines or this might happen one day, I have a lot of things that are like, oh, this was an idea someone wanted, and this is a cool idea of mixing a trope and a character or fitting it to a particular
I've got like
line for a publisher or
ideas
something.
that have been like germinating for like a long time where, and I'm always like, someday I'm going to write this, you know, so I've got lots of those. And sometimes like I'll take a document and just kind of word vomit out like, hey, if I were to write it, it'd be like this. Like I've told you some of my ideas.
Yeah, totally.
One would be a male escort series of romances, all set with different guys at a different gigolos finding love, but different situations of that, like maybe 3, maybe 4. I had another of a quartet of books set at a high school reunion, and I've actually been considering doing the entire, instead of doing this couple gets a book, that couple gets a book, blah blah blah, actually serializing the entire 4-couple thing into like as if it were a mini series.
Like if it was a TV show but stretched out for a
characters.
season or something, like get like your 10 episodes on Netflix of the one reunion.
I'm
Like in
thinking
real
of,
time.
I don't see that in romance a lot, and maybe you don't see that because it doesn't work and it won't sell. But you know, I'm on Wattpad, so why not experiment?
I
And
think for Wattpad that would work a lot. It's like a serial sort of high school.
yeah, it's definitely very serial oriented. And yeah, like even some of the romance novels on Wattpad, a lot of them are 3-book series on one damn couple. You know, so why not do a big long book on 4 couples? Why not?
I think the one thing that confuses me, and then I'm actually kind of glad that Abby brought up 50 Shades because who doesn't? But is that I don't get the reverse problem, and that's because my brain is just like full of like, well, that was weird. I could do this, or I think too much, and I have more bunnies than I could write if I lived to be 100. But I don't get the reverse problem. I don't really have any ideas, so I'm just gonna milk the same one on repeat. And I mean,
oh God,
with 50 Shades of Grey, like if you think about it, she wrote the fan fiction, then she repeated or like, you know, control F and changed the name so she didn't get like in trouble and like republished it with a small publishing house. Then theoretically she edited it a little and published it with like an actual publishing house.
Yeah.
And then it was made a movie, and then she's like, I'll Midnight Sun it and like do it from Christian's point of view and make more money. But like nominally there are 3 or 4 editions of this book if you go from fanfic originally to theoretically edited for actual publication to even doing the Christian Grey's perspective version.
I'm sorry, it's so hot here. I'd have to periodically turn my fan on.
And it's
so
just like, and then she like, I don't know, she was off for like 6 or 7 years and she didn't write anything. And then she came out with that one book called
The Mister.
The Mister. Yeah, it's so generic. I could not remember the title, and I've actually read part of it. But like it's so generic. And then it was like a huge flop, even though it's getting a movie adaptation because Universal's desperate. I mean, if there are ever movies again. And then
they're straight to
lose their
home
money
now.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
basically
Universal, I
straight to
see.
home.
Yeah, they are.
Because
they've made a lot of money that they didn't expect just releasing directly to home. Like Universal's like, this is actually super profitable.
But yeah, but see, the deal was they went and they talked to AMC, and I know way more about this than I really should.
Okay.
They went and they talked to AMC, and they were like, hey, we have Trolls because of everything that's going on. Let's release this straight to home video. We are only going to do this one time because of A, B, C, and D. We're not trying to undercut you out of anything. It's just,
but it's, you know, unprecedented global.
Yeah.
Captain Trips.
Yeah. So they tried to make it seem all good. AMC is like, we don't like it, but okay, we will stand by. We will let you go ahead and release Trolls World Tour directly to home video.
Yeah, I see advertisements for it all the time on my Fios.
Well, now it's because they bypassed the movie theater and they went straight to home video. So then Universal made way more money than they ever expected on direct to home video.
Because there's a bunch of really bored little kids and desperate parents who are like, watch something new.
Right.
I don't care. It's not Frozen 800 time, which I like that movie, but it's new. Watch this for 90 minutes. I need a minute. Like I need a break.
Yeah. So Universal is now coming back saying, we're going to look at releasing simultaneously at home and in theaters at the same time. Which makes sense, because
even if states are releasing some restrictions, people are not going to want to go to theaters right now for most of us.
But that was not part of the original deal.
Yeah,
that
is true. AMC, it's going to be a problem for,
AMC is like, you are undercutting us. You are going back on what you just said. Yeah. Because you said this was unprecedented. You wanted to do this as a thing because of whatever. You are going back on what you said. You said it would not happen after.
So now we're never showing your movies again. AMC's like, we're done.
We're not showing your shit anymore.
Interesting.
Now,
that might be more popular because people would be like, I wouldn't go to the movies for it, but I'll rent it late at night when I'm desperate and alone.
That being said, Regal Cinemas has come out and backed AMC, they have said, if Universal goes through with their plans to try to release in the movie theater and release at home, Regal Cinemas nor AMC cinemas will be showing Universal movies. So, bye Fast and Furious. Nice knowing you. Damn it, I wanted to see how Han survived.
It's interesting.
And I also need to find out how is John Cena Vin Diesel's little brother.
Little is a weird adjective for that. I mean, I know you meant younger. I'm like, okay. Brady Bunch family, remade. I don't know. Adoption. But yeah, so it's all interesting, and we got inside baseball. But it is interesting to see how anything goes forward in a post Captain Trips world, because like I think I've mentioned before, I know I've mentioned it with friends, that we were down to the big four even before this happened, because Simon & Schuster was faltering and it was looking to be sold. So it could still stay a big five publishing company, but who knows if anybody's going to put the finances behind Simon & Schuster if things resettle. I know publishing houses like Tor have had to let a lot of staff go. You know, how many bookstores are going to be open. It wasn't like, and I wish this were not true, but it's not like Barnes & Noble was doing really good, even with deals where it was paired with college campuses as bookstores either, because the one that was on my campus closed within like 2 years and we couldn't get our books from it anymore because it wasn't there. And like, you wonder if how much and how long Captain Trips lasts, like how much longer it'll take, and like what it will eat into physical actual places to buy physical actual books from, and also how many publishing houses will be left at that level. And the same thing for movies, because you're like, how will this affect people going to movies? I was also wondering, like, do people want to like do drive-ins more? Because it seems like a logical idea to bring back at this point. Because you can.
I would love that.
Your food, you can control
I've
your
never been to a drive-in.
I haven't either. It looks kind of fun, and you can control like who.
I want to be able to like
you're breathing.
eat whatever the hell I want.
So, like, are you entering a brave new world where you don't see a lot of movies in theaters unless you actually have a drive-in setup, or the movies you go to see in theaters are only by certain production companies because they have decided not to bypass and go video on demand, which is going to be an even more enticing option because the Academy changed rules so video on demand released films or streaming-based films can be eligible for Oscars now.
Oh,
Like, Universal's going to be
here's
like, it's
looking
not
at
even
Bright
worth it.
too.
What?
I said, oh fuck, here's looking at Bright too.
Well, it's not going to get an Oscar, honey.
Right.
But yeah, but exactly. So it's like, it's really interesting in a post all this shit, assuming we have normalcy again. And I'm sure in a couple of years or 6 months or whatever.
I don't know.
Fingers crossed. But like, how much is still going to be left of like movie theaters and bookstores and things that were physical media provisions as opposed to, I got used to streaming it. You know, it's kind of interesting.
Even those people that are complaining about Netflix and stuff, they probably have friends and family, and they themselves probably binge a Netflix show here and there. You know, the fact is, people have to stop. People have to let things evolve. You know, let it evolve with what the consumers actually want.
I saw it with Colbert.
Speaking of Netflix,
there was a joke, and it was like, "You've watched all of Netflix. Have you tried Hulu now?"
But I just finished watching
binging
a Netflix show last night. You know, but I'll save that for Rex, for when we're doing the Rex.
Okay, yeah. But that'd be a good segue into that. But just like so it's going to be interesting to see just how physical media changes and how our industry changes, because I mean, I've been sort of slow because again, grad school's taking up a lot of space. I like your shirt. And like Abby's taken the road of, I don't want to work as an indie author where I have to interface with Amazon and do ads yet. So I'm going to build my following on Wattpad or maybe in other ventures first.
Well, right now I'm just enjoying the process of writing and having an audience.
And then, Dawn, you're out there, but we're all people who to some degree are more fluent and comfortable with digital media first, or with being published online through different providers first.
Yeah.
Because I think there are still an old guard of people who maybe were small published houses or were physically published at bookstores or even mid-list, which has been eroded, I know, across the last decade with Kindle and things, but we're still there. And I wonder if in a post-Captain Trips world, a lot of people who are still sort of hanging into the physical world and more print first, mid to small list, are like gonna either rearrange or go, I just can't make the effort to change to computerized. Like, I never thought it was gonna be that big a deal, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, streaming is a thing. Or like, subscription book services, of which not just Kindle Unlimited, but there's other things too you can get through I want to say Kobo and stuff, and libraries and Scribd and over to again going to move more in that direction, just because we've had such a weird relationship with the ability to physically go outside. And so how that's going to change too is going to be really interesting, because I think there's going to be long-ranging effects that are really going to affect the industry, both with how many publishing houses there are, because I'm still side-eyeing Simon & Schuster, and how many places to actually buy books in the flesh or in the page there are.
Yeah.
For good or ill. I mean, I think people who are already hybrid authors or indie authors are sort of ahead of a curve there. But it's going to be interesting how that all shapes up, and how now maybe publishers who are bigger publishers that are left, like Harlequin or the Randy Penguin, et cetera, are going to be like, we really need to focus even harder on digital because we haven't really taken advantage of it the way we could have, and look what happened. Joanna Penn's show, the Creative Pen podcast, had a couple episodes about like, what does it look like as it changes, and what are things like even audiobooks that people for a while didn't listen to because they weren't in their cars, but are going back to listening more to audio. Doing so, that kind of stuff. Not
gonna lie, I have a subscription to Audible, and there's one book series that I'm like, okay, I'm about to listen to the second book in the series for the second time, and I am enjoying the series. It's God, I don't remember what exactly the name of the series is called. I know it's by Jennifer Estep.
Okay.
It is, the first book is Kill the Queen. Can you see where this is going? It is Kill the Queen, Protect the Prince, and Crush the King. Those are the three books that are in the series. And I enjoy them. I will say I tried to get into her Spider Elemental series, her Elemental Assassin series, where all of them are like spider themed. But for whatever
reason, are they actual like spider people?
No.
Okay, because I got really confused. Oh shit. Never mind. My brain was like, they all have different spider power. Never mind. You know what, brain? You need to not make
Hello into the Spider-Verse.
I know, that's what I was thinking. It's like Miles Morales. I was watching it the other day with
Love that movie.
Midnight, and he can use color changing powers because I guess the spider that bit him is like chromatophore stuff in addition to like the stuff that Peter Parker can do. I'm like, it is very anyway. My brain's not thinking about different spider people, but it totally is thinking about different spider people. Moving on. They're all from Australia because of course they would be.
That's gonna end up in her book with the shape-shifting lemur and
no, that one's got a unicorn. That's different. It's different. My shape-shifting spider people are going to have their own book, and they're all going to be Australian.
It's going to be the shape-shifting spider person is going to be the assassin after the unicorn, and that's going to develop the spin-off series.
Oh my god, that actually would work really well. Shit, god damn it! And this is what happens when you have people to riff off of you and help you throw spaghetti against a wall. All of a sudden, you're writing not just a book with a were-lemur and a were-sloth trying to track down a unicorn and save its life, but the evil spider person assassin who has their own spin-off series of books with their family and mercenary friends in Australia and spider powers. And I am so weird.
My job is done.
Dawn is very excited because this is like all of a sudden she's gonna get like a book, a standalone, and like a 3-book series out of this, and I'm gonna be like, what am I even writing? And Abby's just like, where did Ivy's brain go? And I'm like, I don't know. Haven't slept well in a week. Too many term papers and too much caffeine. That's where it went.
It's what this like totally goes back to the original thing, the original topic where it's like, where do your ideas come from?
Dawn encourages me to do bad things. Do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Do it.
Well, I'm going to put notes down. I'll put it on a back burner of ideas for later, and it's definitely going to be the marriage between the unicorn hunt to swipe up into a whole spinoff about spider people in Australia. So
I am Margaret. I am Ivy's personal Shia LaBeouf meme. Do it. Do it.
Just do it.
Oh, I thought you were going to be the one who was like, it's magic. Which is my other favorite Shia LaBeouf meme.
I love all the Shia LaBeouf memes.
That's true.
I've had the actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf song has it's always in my head.
Okay, where were we in talking about things that aren't ridiculous but will still probably end up happening?
I do have a rec.
Oh, please do. Sorry. I actually have a rec too, so give us your rec.
Show Never Have I Ever is adorable.
Is that the Mindy Kaling one?
Yeah. It's really good. Really good cast. It'll make you laugh, make it cry, and obviously I relate to the heroine in some ways because she's, part of a group of close-knit friends who aren't exactly popular or anything like that, and wants to like change things, and she's got some issues, and as you get deeper into the show, you kind of see where her head's at, and I wouldn't even call it a twist. I would just say that the layers get peeled back when you see that the reason she is so angry or so self-destructive. Like, it's really good. It's really funny. And I binged all of it in one sitting, which I haven't done since Russian Doll, which, by the way, was also one of the best, most amazing, most innovative things I have ever seen on TV in my life. Russian Doll, if you haven't seen it, see it. But yeah, and also there's a YouTube channel or series called Black Girl in a Big Dress about a black girl in a big dress. No, she's wears a period type cosplay. I was
gonna ask if it was ball gowns, but that's even cooler. That's all.
And she, and just about like that aspect of her life and the way people like don't get it, but I love, like, every once in a while she'll just do kind of a side where she's just like, we can't touch, and that's hot, like that kind of thing where she's like, what's hot about the romance of let's say the 1800s is just like,
I feel like now everybody's going to understand the romance of we can't touch, because I'm like, that's us now.
Yeah.
No one can. All of a sudden, Regency makes like 800 times more sense.
Yeah.
Love in the time of quarantine.
Yeah.
Coming this Christmas. To
Apologies to Gabriel Garcia Marquez, but yes, love in the time of cholera, love in the time of quarantine. I have some recs.
Okay.
This is not a damn with faint praise, but more like I'll take it. The movie from Blumhouse Productions of Fantasy Island. I know you're gonna think I'm stupid, but like it's actually pretty interesting the way they break it up. I've never seen the show from like the 70s, not old, but like what I do like about it is that it's almost like I'll call it like you get a you tried sticker, because it's definitely kind of a movie that has a lot of flaws and is a little bit stupid and it doesn't have a lot of tension, so it's not as scary as it could be. I know you're like, Margaret, what are you talking about? But what I like
No, I
about
know
it
exactly what movie you're talking about.
is that it's a horror setup, and more or less horror thriller. And like what ends up happening is the dudes who you think are going to be your typical cishet straight white dudes who are going to solve all your problems don't. Sorry, it's as much of a spoiler as I'm going to give. It's probably more information than you need, but like, and so like the people who end up saving the day are like the Latino guy who owns the island, and like two women, and the
Dang.
short gay Asian man. And I'm like, yeah, here's a woman where not only does the gay guy get to live, but then he gets to like save the day and have action scenes. So like it has a lot of flaws, but I'm like, I love that like you think the straight white dudes are here to save you, but it's like pretty much everybody else gets like a turn to shine, and I really enjoy that.
Subverting expectations.
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, you Asian man, you take that machine gun, you kill the Russian drug dealers. It makes sense in the context of the movie. I'm like, it was fun for me to be like, yeah. It had a lot of delightful things turning on its head. Like it's flawed, but it was so much more delightful than I thought it was going to be. And I was like, yeah, it was just nice. I mean, I think a lot more about not just gay representation, but also seeing Asian people do anything in movies, which I had noticed, of course, but like I notice it so much more now than I did because of my nephew and because of what I would wish Karen, who's my sister-in-law, could be able to see in film. So when I see like a little gay Asian hero who's like, you know, kicking ass and doing cool things with guns and like, you know, being one of the dudes, and I'm like, thank you, people need that. So it was fun. And then also in another horror movie being Abby made me think about it because she saw it last night, is Ready or Not is really fun. So, or as I like to call it, fucking rich people, the movie. So,
I feel
it's
like
very cathartic for times like these.
Like aggregator thing has sort of made this idea of like people won't even bother seeing a movie if it's got less than 80% or whatever. And I feel like that's kind of, I mean, Romeo and Michelle has like 56% or something.
I love that movie. We invented post-it.
One of the greatest movies of our time.
It is great.
But yeah. Anyway,
the recs that I have are along the anime vein.
Good.
For kind of like for world building and characterization, because that's really what we were talking about. We were talking about like how we create our worlds, how we find our characters, how we come up with our ideas. One is an anime that is, I think I may have recommended before. I will recommend it again.
If it's good enough, who cares? Just throw it out there, man.
My Hero Academia, because I'm on a rewatch of it.
I don't know if you've told it here before, but I know you've definitely recommended it on social media or with me before. So, and I've heard good things from so many people on Twitter and stuff.
It is basically what would happen if 80% of the world's population developed superpowers.
The other 20% are kind of screwed, aren't they?
Yeah, and like being a superhero is actually a job, and these kids are going to high school to learn how to become superheroes. And one of these kids is Midoriya, Izuku Midoriya. He pretty much did not have one of those superpowers until recently. Abby, you're messing with your camera and you froze.
Yeah, you froze.
I'm so sorry. I got a text from my uncle and
oh no, it's fine. We don't mind. I'm just like, I hope you know that that's you for right now.
Yeah.
Sorry. No, I was trying to answer it, and I thought that I could do it without closing it.
No, it was hilarious. I'm just like, oh no, she froze. Does she know she froze?
No. But yeah, it was My Hero Academia, and then another one that they took the idea, they made it their own, and again, I am not 100% sure if I recommended it to the group. I know I recommended it to Ivy on our own. Is an anime called Blood Sea. Blood Sea is it's loosely based off of the anime and manga Blood the Last Vampire.
I was going to ask if a vampire was involved.
Yeah. Yeah. It was Blood the Last Vampire. She was the last vampire. The original movie came out in like the 90s, and it was a great movie. Since then, there was another side anime series called Blood Plus, which is amazing. There's also a live action Blood the Last Vampire movie. We will not talk about that yet.
We all have that one thing in the series we're like, that one didn't happen. That doesn't count.
Okay. I think next week it's my turn to pick the topic. Is it my turn to pick the topic? Okay, next week we're doing adaptations. I'm putting it down right now.
We already are. On the talk about
I have so many thoughts.
I need to excise my thoughts on Order of the Phoenix.
We need to decompress all of this.
Yeah, we have feels. We have adaptation feels.
Yeah. So yeah, it got a live action adaptation that we don't talk about. But then Blood Sea, it was given an animation house called Clamp took over, and they decided to write a story along the lines using the characters. Well, here's the thing about Clamp. Clamp was very deceptive, and by that I mean and when Blood Sea came out, but around then, the biggest animes that Clamp had under their belt were Cardcaptor Sakura, however you want to pronounce it, and Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicles. These are animes that are more, and Holic. I cannot forget Holic. These are animes that are more fantasy whimsical. They do have some dark moments, but again, it's all lighthearted. You're like, it's not for little kids, but you could see where teenagers would be like, oh, I'm down with this. But then you have to sit back and remember back in the 90s, Clamp did this series called X Tokyo Babylon. Yeah, that's
a darker one. I mean, the way Blood City came out was a lot way more free for all dark.
Oh, it's so hot. Sorry, I'm gonna turn my fan on again.
Oh, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's just really hard not to have it on.
I will put it to you like this. It would not surprise me if Clamp, Tokyo Babylon, it would not surprise me if they inspired Quentin Tarantino in his movies.
It wouldn't surprise me either.
With all of the blood spray and everything.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah. And he has said that he has been inspired by anime. He just
he was so much into Hong Kong films and action, so it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. So they get Blood Sea, and you see this little thing going on, and then all of a sudden, this sweet girl that you see, Saya, she has to kill this monster. And she goes and she kills this monster. Like, she comes home and she is like dripping in blood. Like Carrie-esque dripping in blood. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I can see this. I will say I did have a moment where I was not a good person. You see this really big, harsh reveal.
Did you laugh instead?
And it was hurtful, and you feel betrayed for Saya. Well, this monster attacks, and one of the people that betrayed Saya is running away from this monster. This monster grabs this girl. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. My little puppy, I'm so sorry. This monster grabs this girl, yokes it up, and just slams her right on the ground, and you see the blood splat. And it hits her again and then eats her.
Oh, this is cathartic.
I just fell out laughing.
So you'll watch really bloody animes, but you're not into really scary horror. Like, I don't know, people can do one thing, but they can't do live action, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking between the three of us, we get a good range of animes, horror, and then poor Abby's over here I like this Regency thing. It was nice. And we're like, oh, there's some things that didn't bleed with Abby.
I'm all by myself in my little Jane Austen corner.
Yeah, well, we need someone who's not like, and then there was blood, and then I wanted more. But
No, I read and watch a lot of horror, obviously, but
yeah, you're, I think you're more
I never feel like I'm good enough to write it.
Yeah, I never feel I love horror novels, but I just don't think I have anything to add in that genre. Like, I love it, but I don't think I can do it. But I had one last rec for the road that it's really oddly short. I was talking to Midnight, who's been feeling really stressed out because we live in a dystopian apocalypse for reals this time. But it made me think of Rod Serling's original The Twilight Zone, which is available to stream on Netflix for sure. Because he obviously in a post-World War II world where he's come home and he'd seen fascism and all sorts of, a lot of the episodes deal with how do you survive in a fascist system? How do you survive when things are bleak? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, there are some fun ones too. Like there's a Gremlin on a Plane and William Shatner's
How to Serve Man.
Yeah, but there are some that are very foundationally about totalitarianism and individual rights and like what we owe to each other in society and things like that, which I think is really helpful. And so, the whole series is like a masterclass in how to write. And there's a reason, not just the Simpsons episodes, but like Treehouse of Horrors, but pretty much every thing from like The Outer Limits to current incarnation of Black Mirror and stuff have obviously been like influenced.
Yeah, the Twilight Zone walked so they could run.
Exactly. But there's this particular episode that's the season 2 finale. It has Burgess Meredith in it, and it's not the one where he breaks his glasses and can't read, but it's got Burgess Meredith, who I guess is most famous for being, I'm gonna say, Riddler, the Penguin in the original Batman, whatever. I think it's the Riddler. But anyway, he's also in Rocky as the trainer. The point is that there's this one called The Obsolete Man with Burgess Meredith, and it's a very serious one. It's about a man who is a librarian, and he's been put on trial by the state because there's a totalitarian government, and being a librarian is obsolete because no one is allowed to read books. And so since he's obsolete, he's supposed to be condemned to die on state television as part of state entertainment. And that's the setup. Like, that's literally the first minute of the episode. And then the rest of it is how he spends the afternoon and evening of his execution, which is like a 1-act play, basically, with his executioner, who's like one of the big suck-ups to the state. He's a very well appointed company man.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just this one room, drawing room kind of drama of like the two of them going back and forth and him defending what it is to be, quote, an obsolete person against people who are like, well, what's the point of like trying to do better or having arts or having, a value in books. And so I take a lot of comfort in that episode just because however it resolves itself, and there is with Rod Serling a twist at the end, that however it resolves itself is the message and the theme about like it matters that you try, and it matters that there is art, and it matters people who say things about beauty and art and truth in the world, no matter what kind of world you live in. It's something I really told Midnight that we all needed to hear again. So Twilight Zone in general is amazing. And I know everybody's seen parodies on The Simpsons and stuff, but like the original stuff is really amazing. And of all the episodes, the one that I love the best is called The Obsolete Man. So definitely check that one out.
Yeah, and the only episode of The Twilight Zone that stuck with me is How to Serve Man.
Yeah, that one.
That's quite a few.
You don't know the twist. That one's pretty good too.
Oh, Talking Tina. Obviously, the Gremlin on the airplane. Oh God, there's so many.
My mom's is It's a Good Life, where it's like the boy who can like wish you into the cornfield. She loves that one.
Yeah, I love that one. Yeah, what's it called? I love the Twilight Zone movie, by the way.
The one from 1980 that was gosh darn it, John Landis.
Gosh, with the magical old people and
Kick the Can's one of them.
The Kick the Can, and obviously the little boy that gets to wish everybody into whatever form he wants, and the whole movie.
Yeah, Twilight Zone's good stuff, guys. I do like the CBS All Access version. I haven't caught up with it because I can't afford to keep All Access around all the time. But I didn't like
Stories is coming back, and that was one in the 80s that was like is that on CBS All Access?
They're gonna be Apple, I think.
Okay. I used to love that when I was a kid because I think Spielberg produced that.
It is, yeah.
And
I think it is again.
Have a very cinematic feel.
I think the nice thing about Black Mirror becoming so popular is that it had them decide that they could revive The Twilight Zone and revive Amazing Stories, which are both really good in their own ways. And then obviously other anthology sort of stories are coming out whatever the fuck Quibi is has their own one that's sort of short anthological kind of horror for like 15-minute episodes. But there's there's one on Prime recently that's sort of like a more outer worldsy feeling on one. But I think because Black Mirror, however you felt about the last season with that stupid Miley Cyrus episode, like has brought back a real emphasis and want for episode by episode, not season by season like American Horror Story, but like episode by episode anthology mystery and horror and science fiction, and a lot of exploring the same way that Rod Serling envisioned it. So that's been really nice.
Okay, so we have our Recs down and everything, so we're gonna wrap this up. Next week we will be back here, same bat time, same bat channel.
Actually,
so that we can discuss our favorite and least favorite adaptations.
I already know my two off the bat, and the third one that's a good example of multiple adaptations, and I'm sure Abby can think of that one because
I know of two excellent adaptations, and one of them is one that I never thought that I would actually like.
Yeah.
And again, before you even ask, smart asses, it's anime.
And I can't wait to get into that one because, like, I think adaptations, a lot of times you expect them to go badly, but it's nice when you get one that really surprises you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we're wrapping it up. Next time we'll see you, same bat time, same bat channel, like I said before. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and so this way you are notified when we do upload. We will try to get these up on Wednesday mornings, so this way you get a chance to watch it and join us for the next one. Alrighty, so this is Dawn, Ivy, and Abby saying goodbye. Bye.
Ciao, ciao.